If you'd rather face a wild animal than step into a packed concert, something important is happening inside your mind. And no, it's not weakness, it's not damage, it's not social failure, it's awareness. Picture this, it's the weekend. Your phone lights up with a message. We're all going out tonight, new place downtown, super crowded, but the vibe is insane. Before you even finish reading it, your chest tightens, your energy drops, your mind starts searching for excuses. Not because you hate people, not because you hate fun, but because your nervous system just ran the numbers and decided the cost is higher than the reward. Most people don't notice this calculation happening. You do, and that already puts you in a different psychological category. You're not rejecting the event itself. You're reacting to what your brain knows will come with it. The noise, the unpredictability, the constant stimulation, the feeling of being trapped in an environment you can't control. While everyone else hears music, you hear chaos. While they see excitement, you sense overload. And here's the key idea most people miss. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do, protect you. Some minds are built to filter reality aggressively. They walk into a crowd and unconsciously delete most of what's happening. They ignore overlapping conversations. They don't register subtle emotional shifts. They tune out the flickering lights, the background tension, the forced laughter. Their brains simplify the world so they can keep moving. Your brain doesn't do that. Your brain records. It notices everything at once. Body language, tone changes, energy shifts, social dynamics. Who's performing? Who's uncomfortable? Who's trying too hard? Who's about to snap? You're not choosing to see these things. They arrive fully formed whether you want them or not. Psychologists refer to this as sensory processing sensitivity. It's a technical term, but the idea is simple. Your nervous system takes in more information than average and processes it more deeply. Research suggests roughly 20% of people are wired this way. 1 in 5, not rare, not abnormal, just different. The problem isn't sensitivity, the problem is living in a culture that worships stimulation. Crowded concerts, packed bars, constant noise. These environments reward people who can numb themselves to input. If your brain doesn't numb easily, those same spaces feel exhausting instead of exciting. You don't walk away energized, you walk away depleted. And depletion is not a character flaw. Think about what's really happening in those moments. While others are letting loose, your brain is working overtime. It's tracking exits. It's monitoring personal space. It's adjusting to unpredictable movement. It's decoding social signals at high speed. It's managing sound, light, emotion, and meaning all at once. That's not fear. That's labor. You're doing cognitive work that most people never realize exists, and because you're doing that work silently, you get mislabeled. People say you're antisocial, too serious, too intense, too sensitive. But sensitivity isn't the issue is mismatch. Your mind is designed for depth, not volume. It wants clarity, not noise. Meaning, not excess. It wants experiences it can fully enter, not environments it has to survive. When that need isn't met, your body reacts first. Tight shoulders, shallow breath, mental fatigue, long before you can explain it in words. So you start avoiding certain spaces. Not because you're afraid, but because you're tired of paying the price. And deep down, you know something others don't. Not every invitation is an opportunity. Some are withdrawals disguised as fun. Your awareness makes you selective. And selectivity, in a loud world, looks like rebellion. But this is only the surface of what's really going on, because sensitivity isn't just about crowds. It shapes how you think, how you connect, how you experience meaning itself. And that's where things get even more interesting. That random interaction from weeks ago, the one nobody else remembers, your brain didn't delete it. It tagged it as potentially important and quietly stored it away. Not because you're obsessive, not because you're stuck in the past, but because your mind is built to track patterns over time. Where others move on instantly, you connect dots. Your brain doesn't treat moments as isolated events. It treats them as data points, tone, timing, micro-expressions. contradictions between words and behavior. It keeps reviewing them, not to torture you, but to understand the larger picture. That's not overthinking. That's sense-making. In other words, your neural network is doing exactly what it was designed to do: detect complexity others overlook. And here's the part most people never consider. This trait isn't new. It didn't appear because of social media or modern stress. It's ancient. Long before crowded cities and constant noise, people like you played a crucial role. While the more outgoing members of the group relaxed, talked, and bonded, someone had to stay alert. Someone had to notice the branch snap in the distance. Someone had to recognize which plant was safe and which one would kill you. Someone had to sense danger before it was obvious that someone was wired like you. High sensitivity wasn't a weakness, it was a survival advantage. It kept tribes alive, it prevented disasters, it noticed threats early when there was still time to act. You're not too much, you're exactly what survival needed. The problem is that modern society isn't built for people who pay attention. We live in a world optimized for constant stimulation, shallow interaction, and emotional performance. Loud environments, fast conversations, endless social signaling. There's very little space for quiet observation, reflection, or depth. So the same traits that once protected the group now get misunderstood. And that brings us to the second truth. You're not antisocial, you're anti-BS. Let's clear that up. You don't dislike people, you dislike pretending. You dislike surface-level interaction that demands energy without offering anything real in return. In crowded spaces, most people are performing versions of themselves. The "I'm having a great time" version, the "I'm totally listening" version, the "I'm fine, everything's fine" version, even when their body is clearly saying otherwise. And you can see it all, not because you're cynical, not because you're judgmental, but because your perception is tuned to what's happening beneath the surface. You notice the tension behind the smile, the insecurity hiding behind the joke, the forced enthusiasm, the disconnect between words and emotions. That constant translation is exhausting. While others are just reacting to what's being said, you're processing what's not being said, the subtext, the energy, the emotional undercurrent. You're tracking multiple layers of reality at once. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as high perceptual sensitivity. It means your emotional radar is finely calibrated. So finely calibrated that you pick up on inconsistencies others breeze past. You sense when something's off before anyone can explain why. You feel discomfort in the room long before it turns into visible conflict. In a way, you're a human lie detector without asking for the role. And that's why crowds drain you. It's not the number of people, it's the number of masks. Every mask adds another layer your brain has to decode, another signal to interpret, another emotional contradiction to resolve. You're not withdrawing because you hate connection. You're withdrawing because you crave honest connection. Real conversation, real presence, real emotion without performance. And when those aren't available, your nervous system chooses distance over exhaustion. But there's still another layer to this, because sensitivity doesn't just affect how you see others, it shapes how you relate to yourself, to meaning, and to the world as a whole. And that's where this story really deepens. There's a reason solitude feels different to you, and it's not accidental. One major study out of Cambridge University found something most people wouldn't expect. Individuals who prefer solitude tend to score higher in emotional intelligence than those who thrive in constant crowds. In simple terms, this means you're not socially behind, you're socially advanced. You understand people well enough to know when interaction is real and when it's just noise. You're not avoiding social life because you can't do it. You're avoiding it because you see through it. You recognize when conversations are just rehearsed scripts, when smiles are strategic, when everyone is quietly selling a version of themselves instead of actually being present. And you don't want to participate in that. You'd rather have one honest conversation at 3 in the morning, raw, unscripted, slightly uncomfortable, than attend 50 events where everyone is performing their highlight reel. That's not avoidance, that's integrity. The issue isn't that you're bad at small talk, it's that your brain experiences small talk the way most people experience chewing cardboard. You can do it, but it feels pointless, draining, like pretending to be impressed by something you know has no depth. Your nervous system is wired for substance. It craves meaning, nuance, silence between words, conversations that go somewhere instead of looping endlessly around safe topics. When you're forced into surface-level exchanges, it's like asking a philosopher to get excited about discussing the weather. They'll play along, but something inside them slowly shuts down. And that brings us to something even deeper. Your brain's reward system plays by different rules. Dopamine, the chemical most people associate with pleasure and motivation, doesn't respond in you the same way it does in crowd-loving personalities. For highly social people, walking into a party triggers a dopamine surge. New faces, noise, novelty, energy. Their brains light up like a festival. Your brain? Silence. Not because it's broken, but because it's tuned to a different frequency. Instead of dopamine, your system relies more heavily on acetylcholine. This neurotransmitter rewards internal focus, reflection, deep concentration, and calm awareness. It activates when you're alone, thinking, reading, creating, or simply existing without external pressure. That's why certain moments feel strangely rich to you. Reading late at night when the world is quiet, taking a walk alone with no destination, sitting in silence, letting your thoughts unfold without interruption. Those moments don't look exciting from the outside, but internally, your brain is fully alive. While some people need stimulation to feel real, you need space. External noise shuts you down. Internal clarity powers you up. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that introverted brains often have thicker gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for planning, abstract thinking, decision-making, and self-reflection. This means that when you appear to be doing nothing, your brain is actually doing its most important work. Processing experiences, connecting ideas, rehearsing futures, creating meaning. You're not idle, you're incubating. The world mistakes this for laziness or withdrawal because it doesn't produce visible activity. But not all productivity makes noise. Some of the most complex mental work happens in stillness. You're composing internal symphonies while everyone else is distracted by background music. And here's the part worth remembering. Evolution doesn't keep useless traits around. If this way of being survived, it's because it served a purpose. Depth thinkers, observers, planners, they balanced the risk-takers and the performers. You're not weird, you're not defective, you're not falling behind. You're carrying an operating system designed for insight in a world addicted to stimulation. And that mismatch, more than anything else, is what makes modern life feel so exhausting. But there's still one more layer to uncover, because once you understand why your brain works this way, the real question becomes this: what happens when you stop fighting it? Number 4, you're basically an emotional Wi-Fi router. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt that something was off, even though everyone was smiling, laughing, and acting normal? Nothing obvious was wrong. No one said anything strange. And yet, your body knew before your mind could explain it. That's not imagination, that's perception. Your brain is packed with mirror neurons, cells designed to reflect and interpret the emotional states of others. In your case, they're highly active. You don't just observe emotions from a distance, you absorb them. You tune into the emotional frequency of a space the same way a radio locks onto a signal. Spend time in a crowd, and you're not only managing your own internal world, you're unconsciously downloading everyone else's, their stress, their excitement, their tension, their insecurity, their unspoken frustration. It all comes in at once, and your nervous system doesn't know how to ignore it. So while others are simply having a good time, you're processing hundreds of emotional data streams simultaneously, while also trying to make conversation, regulate your breathing, and appear relaxed. That's not introversion, that's psychological overload. No wonder a 2-hour event costs you 3 days of recovery. Your system isn't tired because you're weak, it's tired because it's working. at a level most people never access. You're running emotional background processes constantly without turning them off, but here's the part that rarely gets acknowledged. This sensitivity makes you exceptionally emotionally intelligent. You understand subtext, you read between words, you sense what people are feeling before they can articulate it. You notice shifts in energy others miss completely. Most people struggle to identify their own emotions. You're out here recognizing everyone else's, often in real time. That's not a flaw, that's a capacity many people would crumble under if they suddenly inherited it. This is why people open up to you unexpectedly, why strangers tell you things they didn't plan to say, why friends feel seen around you without knowing why. Your presence quietly signals safety, awareness, and understanding. The downside is that without boundaries, this gift becomes draining. Absorbing everything without filtering anything will exhaust even the strongest nervous system. That's why solitude isn't indulgence for you, it's maintenance. And that brings us to the final realization. Number 5. You're not running away from life, you're running toward yourself. Modern culture has a strange obsession with noise, with movement, with visibility. If you're not constantly busy, constantly social, constantly documenting your existence, something must be wrong. Silence gets labeled as loneliness, stillness gets confused with stagnation, but you've discovered something most people spend their lives avoiding. Silence isn't empty. Silence is where your mind reorganizes itself, where emotions settle instead of piling up, where meaning emerges without being forced. When you step away from the crowd, you're not opting out of life. You're choosing a different depth of engagement, one that doesn't require performance, one that doesn't demand constant output, one that allows you to actually hear your own thoughts. The world teaches people to fear being alone with themselves. You learn to listen, and that's why you don't chase noise the way others do. You're not chasing distraction, you're chasing clarity. You're not trying to escape experience, you're trying to experience it fully, without distortion. This doesn't make you better than others, it makes you different. And difference, in a society built on conformity, often gets misunderstood. But once you stop measuring your life by external standards, by volume, visibility, and constant motion, you start realizing something quietly powerful. The life you're drawn to isn't smaller, it's deeper, and that depth is exactly where your mind does its best work. It's where clarity lives. Solitude isn't loneliness. Loneliness is feeling unseen while surrounded by people. Solitude is where you finally hear yourself without interference. It's where your thoughts stop competing with noise, where your emotions untangle instead of stacking on top of each other, where your nervous system exhales. You're not missing out. You're opting out of a system that was never designed for people who think deeply, feel deeply, and perceive deeply. Most of the world is built around speed, around reaction, around stimulation, and constant output. Loud environments reward those who can skim the surface of experience without sinking into it. But your mind doesn't skim, it dives, and diving requires oxygen, space, stillness. You've understood something quietly profound. The loudest places rarely offer the deepest truths. The most meaningful realizations don't show up in crowds. They appear in silence, in pauses, in moments where nothing is demanding your attention except your own inner world. That's not avoidance, that's wisdom. When you step back from constant social noise, you're not retreating from life. You're stepping into alignment with how your mind actually works. You're choosing environments that nourish you instead of drain you. That's not isolation, it's liberation. Society loves to ask a particular question, why don't you go out more? But what they're really asking is this: why don't you exhaust yourself to fit into spaces that don't honor your nature? Why don't you override your nervous system? Why don't you ignore your internal signals? Why don't you trade depth for volume like everyone else? And the honest answer is simple: because you've learned that peace is worth protecting. You know what happens when you push yourself too far into noise. You've felt the aftermath, the fatigue, the emotional fog, the need to withdraw and recover. Over time, you realize something most people never stop to question. Not every socially approved behavior is psychologically healthy. You don't need constant stimulation to feel alive. You don't need crowds to feel connected. You don't need performance to feel meaningful. You need truth. You need depth. You need room to think. And once you stop apologizing for that, everything shifts. You stop labeling yourself as broken. You stop calling yourself boring. You stop wondering what's wrong with you. Nothing is wrong. You're not antisocial. You're selectively social. You're not withdrawn. You're discerning. You're not disconnected from life. You're connected to it in a quieter, more deliberate way. In a world obsessed with noise, choosing depth looks radical. But depth is exactly what gives your life texture. It's why you notice patterns others miss, why you ask questions others avoid, why you feel things more fully, and yes, sometimes more painfully, but also more truthfully. You're built for meaning, not momentum. So the next time you feel out of place for preferring a quiet night over a crowded event, remember this: environments aren't neutral. Some feed you, some drain you. You're allowed to choose the ones that let you breathe. Your peace isn't a lack of ambition. Your solitude isn't a flaw. Your sensitivity isn't weakness. It's awareness. And honestly, that's what makes you fascinating. So let me ask you, are you team crowds give me life, or team I'd rather befriend a cactus? Drop it in the comments. Let's find our people. And if this resonated, hit subscribe and click the next video on screen. It dives into another misunderstood introvert trait, and fair warning, it might feel uncomfortably accurate.